I came home 3 hours early that Tuesday, and I wish I never had. Not because of what I found, I needed to find it eventually, but because of the voice I heard before I even opened the front door. A voice I had known for 26 years. A voice I had read bedtime stories to, taught to ride a bicycle, walked down the hallway of her first school on her first day while she squeezed my hand so hard my fingers went white. My daughter's voice. I had parked in the driveway the way I always did, quietly out of habit. My wife used to say she never heard me come home, that I moved like a ghost through my own house. I didn't think anything of it that afternoon. I was just tired. I had a long drive back from the client meeting in Hartford. My back was aching, and all I wanted was a glass of water and 20 minutes on the couch before dinner. I was reaching for the door handle when I heard her through the screen window to the left of the porch. My daughter was on the phone in the living room, her voice carrying easy in the warm September air. I know, she was saying. But Dad doesn't have a clue. He never does. You know what he's like. I stopped. Something cold moved through my chest, slow and deliberate. Kyle was literally here for dinner last Thursday, she continued, and she laughed. Not a nervous laugh, a comfortable one. The laugh of someone who had been saying these things for a long time and had long since stopped feeling bad about it. And Dad just sat there asking him about work like they were old friends. It's almost sad, honestly. Mom says he trusts too easily. I think he just doesn't pay attention. He's checked out. Has been for years. I want to tell you that I pushed through that door immediately. I want to tell you I was the kind of man who confronted things head-on, loudly, the moment they happened. But I am not that man. I never have been. I stood on my own porch with my hand on my own door handle and I listened, because some part of me understood that what I was hearing was the part of the story I had been missing. We're going to Asheville the weekend after next, my daughter said. Mom already told Dad it's a girls' trip. Me and Becca and her from college, that whole thing. He won't question it. He never questions anything. Pause. Kyle's already booked the cabin, 3 nights. I mean, I feel a little weird being there with them, but Mom said it would be fine. That it's actually easier if I'm there because it looks more normal for the drive down. And honestly, Dad and I haven't been close in forever. I love him, but sometimes I think it would just be better for everyone if they finally, Yeah, exactly. I think so too. The sooner the better, honestly. Then everyone could just move on. I let go of the door handle. I walked back to my car. I sat in the driver's seat. I looked at the maple tree in the front yard that my wife and I had planted the year we moved in, the year our daughter was born. A little stick of a thing that barely came up to my knee and that now spread 40 feet in every direction and turned a color in October that stopped people on the sidewalk. I sat there for 11 minutes. I know because I watched the clock on the dashboard. Then I made a decision. My name is David. I'm 51 years old. I've been a structural engineer for 23 years. I designed bridges for the first decade of my career, and I will tell you the thing they teach you early in engineering. The thing that sounds simple but that most people never truly internalize. A structure does not fail all at once. It fails slowly at the points of hidden stress, the places you can't see from the outside. And by the time the visible cracks appear, the failure has been in progress for a long time. My marriage had been failing for years. I know that now. In the way you always know things you are not ready to deal with. The distance that grows between two people not because of one dramatic event, but because of 10,000 small choices to look away, to not ask, to let silence fill the space where conversation used to be. My wife's name is Sandra. We met in college, married at 27, had our daughter Emma 2 years later. For the first decade we were good together. We were not spectacular, but we were solid. We built something. We had routines and inside jokes and a life that fit around us the way a well-made coat fits. Then Emma hit her teenage years and Sandra went back to work full-time. And I took on the bridge project in New Haven that consumed 3 years of my life, and somewhere in that stretch we just stopped. Stopped turning toward each other. Stopped asking how the other person was doing and actually waiting for the answer. I don't say this to excuse what she did. There is no excuse. But I am an engineer. I need to understand the structure of a thing. And the structure of what I was living in had been compromised long before Kyle entered the picture. Kyle, her colleague, a project manager at the architectural firm where Sandra had been working for the past 4 years. I met him twice. Once at her office holiday party, once at a company picnic the previous summer. Both times he had shaken my hand and looked me in the eye and smiled, the smile of a man who knew exactly what he was doing and felt perfectly comfortable doing it. That was what was harder to forgive than the affair itself. Not the weakness, not the loneliness, not even the lying. I could find some dim corner of my understanding for all of those. But the smiling, the deliberate, comfortable performance of friendship while he was sleeping with my wife. I need to tell you about my daughter. Emma was 23. She had graduated from UConn the previous spring, was living at home for the year while she saved money and figured out her next step. We had never been close in the way that some fathers and daughters are close. She was more like her mother, more social, more extroverted, more comfortable in rooms full of people, while I preferred smaller spaces and quieter company. But I had loved her in the steady, undemonstrative way that was the only way I knew how to love. And I believed, until that Tuesday afternoon on my own porch, that she knew it. I didn't go inside for 2 more hours. I drove to the river park on the east side of town and sat on a bench and watched the water, and I thought, I am, at my core, a patient man. I have spent my career waiting for soil reports, for material deliveries, for city permits, for weather windows. I have learned that the worst decisions are made quickly, in heat, and that the best outcomes come to those who understand the full shape of a problem before they attempt to solve it. So, I thought about the full shape of my problem. Sandra and Emma were planning a trip to Asheville in 11 days, 3 nights, Kyle's cabin. The whole arrangement dressed up as a girls' weekend and delivered to me with the confidence of people who had been lying successfully for long enough to forget that lies require maintenance. I thought about what I knew and what I didn't know. I thought about what I wanted, and then sitting on that bench watching the river, I understood what I was going to do. I have a friend named Marcus. We have been friends since graduate school. 25 years, the kind of friendship that requires almost no maintenance because it was built on something genuine from the start. Marcus is a family law attorney. He has been practicing for 18 years. His wife, Carol, is a certified financial planner. They are 2 of the most competent, discreet people I have ever known. And when I called Marcus from that bench and said I needed to talk, he heard something in my voice that made him say simply, "My office. Tomorrow morning, 7 o'clock." I told him everything. He listened the way good lawyers listen, completely still, no expression, asking a question only when it was necessary. When I finished, he leaned back in his chair and was quiet for a moment. "How long do you think it's been going on?" he asked. I said I didn't know. Based on what Emma had said, the dinner, the casual familiarity, the way she'd talked about Kyle as a known quantity in the household, I guessed at least 6 months, possibly longer. Marcus nodded. He asked if Sandra and I had any joint accounts, any shared assets, properties other than the house. We did. A joint savings account, a brokerage account we'd set up together 15 years ago, the house itself, which we owned outright. "Before she leaves for this trip," Marcus said, "I want you to do something for me. Nothing dramatic. Just documentation. I want photographs of every financial document in that house. Bank statements, investment accounts, anything with both your names on it. Can you do that?" I said I could. "And I want you to talk to Carol this week. Because before anything else happens, you need to understand exactly what your financial picture looks like and where you stand." I met with Carol 2 days later. She was thorough and calm, and by the end of 90 minutes, I had a clear picture of every asset in my marriage, every account, every liability. I also had, for the first time in months, the sensation of being in control of something. In the days between that meeting and the Asheville trip, I went home every evening and I was normal. I cooked dinner twice. I asked Sandra about her week. I watched television in the same room as my daughter and answered when she spoke to me. I was not cold and I was not warm. I was just present, the way I had apparently always been, according to my daughter, checked out, not paying attention, no clue. Let them believe that. Presence is its own kind of camouflage. On the Thursday before they left, Marcus called me with a name. A private investigator, a woman named Patricia who had worked with his firm for years and who he described as precise and thorough and completely uninterested in drama. I met her that Friday at a coffee shop. She had short gray hair and wore a canvas jacket and looked like a retired science teacher. She took notes on a legal pad in small, exact handwriting. I gave her Kyle's full name, his firm, the name of the rental booking platform Sandra had used for the Asheville cabin. I had found the reservation confirmation in Sandra's email. She had never changed her password from the one she'd told me years ago when I set up her account, a fact that she had simply never thought about. Patricia said she would drive down to Asheville herself. She said she would have documentation by the time they returned. "I'm not interested in anything that isn't strictly necessary," I told her. She looked at me over her coffee cup. "Nobody ever is," she said. "That's not how these things work, though. You get what you get. I give you what's there." I said that was fine. The Saturday morning they left, I stood at the door and watched my wife load her bags into the back of Emma's car. Sandra was wearing sunglasses and a light jacket, and she looked, I thought, almost happy in a way I hadn't seen in a long time. Emma came and gave me a quick hug, the kind you give a piece of furniture you've passed every day for so long you've stopped seeing it, and said they'd be back Tuesday evening. Have a good time? I said. We will, Sandra said. She didn't hug me. She just got in the passenger seat, and Emma backed down the driveway, and I watched the car until it turned the corner at the end of our street. Then I went inside and called Marcus. They're gone, I said. Okay, he said. Let's begin. What happened over the next 72 hours was not dramatic. It was methodical. Marcus walked me through the initial filing. Carol helped me open a separate personal account at a different bank and advised me on the appropriate steps for separating finances in a way that was legally clean and would be hard to challenge later. I contacted a locksmith. Not to change the locks yet, that would come later, but to have everything documented and ready. I also, in those 3 days, did something harder. I went through Emma's room, not to invade her privacy in the petty sense. I want to be clear about that. I went because I needed to understand how long she had known and how complicit she had been, and whether what I had heard on the porch had been the frustrated venting of a young woman caught in an impossible position or something else. What I found was something else. In her desk drawer underneath a stack of notebooks, there was a folder. In the folder were printed email exchanges between Emma and Kyle, going back 14 months. Friendly at first, then familiar, then something I can only describe as conspiratorial. Kyle asking Emma how things were going on the home front, Emma providing updates, Kyle thanking her for the heads up on certain weekends when I would be away for work, Emma writing, in one email from the previous February, he's going to Chicago the 14th through the 17th. Mom knows, you're clear. I sat on my daughter's bed with that folder in my hands for a long time. There's a specific quality to a pain that involves someone who was supposed to protect you, instead choosing to hand you to the thing that would hurt you. It doesn't feel like betrayal exactly. It feels more like a structural failure. The quiet kind. The kind that has been building in the hidden places for longer than you knew, and that you have been living above without understanding why the floor never quite felt solid. I put the folder in my briefcase. On Tuesday evening, when Emma's car turned back into the driveway, I was sitting in the living room. The television was off. There was no dinner cooking. I had a glass of water on the side table and the folder on my knee. Patricia had sent her documentation that morning. I had not opened it yet. I didn't need to. I already knew everything I needed to know. Sandra came through the door first, pulling her bag. She stopped when she saw me. Something crossed her face, a flicker fast and practiced over, gone almost before it arrived. But I saw it. Hey, she said. You're up. I am, I said. Emma came in behind her, phone in hand, and then she saw my face and her own went still. Sit down, I said. Both of you. Sandra put her bag down slowly. Emma closed the door. They sat on the sofa across from me. I placed the folder on the coffee table between us. Sandra looked at it. She knew what it was. Or she knew what category of thing it was, which was enough. I want to tell you something, I said. I'm going to say it once, clearly, and then I'm going to need both of you to be quiet while I finish. Can you do that? Neither of them spoke. I know about Kyle, I said. I know it's been at least 14 months. I know about the cabin in Asheville. I know about the dinners here, in my house. I know about the schedule you kept for him. I looked at Emma here, directly and without looking away, telling him when I was gone, giving him a clear path. I have documentation of all of it. My attorney has documentation of all of it. And I want you to understand that none of this is a surprise, none of this is a trap, and none of this is anger talking. This is just the situation as it exists. Sandra had gone very pale. Emma was staring at the coffee table. I filed for divorce yesterday, I said. You'll receive the paperwork through Marcus's office this week. Sandra's mouth opened. I'm not interested in a conversation tonight, I said. I'm not interested in explanations or apologies or context. I'm sure all of those things feel important right now. Maybe some of them are, but not tonight. David. Sandra started. I said once, I told her. She stopped. I looked at my daughter. Emma had finally looked up from the coffee table. Her eyes were wet, and I want to be honest with you, part of me responded to that. The same part that had watched her learn to ride a bicycle and had read her bedtime stories. But there was another part that had spent 3 days sitting with that folder, and that part was very quiet and very clear. I love you, I told her. I have loved you every day of your life, and that isn't going to change. But what you did was a choice. A long series of choices over more than a year. And you need to understand that choices like that have consequences. Not punishments. I'm not here to punish you. Just consequences. Real ones. Emma started crying then. Full, open crying, not the delicate kind. Dad, I'm sorry, she said. I'm so sorry, I didn't think. I know, I said. That's exactly right, you didn't think. I know, I said. That's exactly right, you didn't think. That's something you're going to need to sit with. I stood up. I'm going to stay at Marcus's tonight and for the next few weeks while the paperwork is processed. I've arranged for this house to be valued as part of the proceedings. Everything else will go through the attorneys. I picked at my jacket from the armchair. I've already moved the things I need. The rest can be sorted through the normal process. Sandra had not moved. She was sitting very still, her hands in her lap, looking at something past my shoulder or possibly at nothing at all. At the door, I paused. Not for effect. I paused because there was one more thing I wanted to say, and I wanted to say it correctly. I want you both to know something. I'm not angry. I was on that first day for about 11 minutes. Then I stopped being angry and started being practical, and that served me much better. What I feel right now is mostly just tired and a little sad, and honestly, in a way I didn't expect, somewhat relieved. Like a structure that's been holding a load it wasn't designed for has finally been allowed to set it down. I looked at Sandra. I hope you're happy, I said. I mean that. Not sarcastically. I genuinely hope it works out and that it was worth it. She didn't say anything. I nodded once to both of them and walked out. The maple tree in the front yard was starting to turn, just at the edges. The first red appearing at the tips of the outer leaves, the way it always started, gradual and then all at once. I stood next to my car for a moment and looked at it. 26 years ago, I planted that tree with a woman I loved in the yard of a house that was going to be the place our life happened. And it had been. It had all happened there. The good and the terrible and the ordinary and the extraordinary. All of it under the growing canopy of that tree. I got in my car. 3 months later, the divorce was finalized. Sandra and Kyle are together. I don't know if they're happy. I don't follow that story anymore. Emma called me 6 weeks after I walked out that door, sober and quiet, and said she wanted to talk. We met for coffee. She didn't make excuses. She just said she was sorry that she hadn't understood the weight of what she was participating in until she saw my face that night in the living room and understood that she had helped build the thing that broke her father. I told her I believed her. I told her the path back wasn't fast, but that there was a path. We're still walking it. As for me, I sleep well now. I work long hours, and I come home to a small apartment that is very quiet and entirely mine. And some nights that quiet feels like loss, and other nights it feels like exactly what it is, the absence of a weight I carried for longer than I knew. The structural relief of finally being allowed to be only what I actually am, holding only what I am genuinely able to hold. A man. 51 years old. Still building things. Still here.